A lot of my success has just been being authentic, because in real estate, you've probably seen it. Nobody's authentic. Everybody wants to be the best. And I've just realized I can't be the best. I'm battling an illness.
What's up, guys? So today we're going to talk about what it looks like to come back from multiple sclerosis all the way to becoming one of the top real estate agents in the city of Nashville. We've got a very special guest today, Elizabeth Taylor, and she is going to tell all about her story. It's a story of redemption and recovery, and it's still a story of recovery. And so we're going to talk all about that, and she's going to get to share how she has become a success and how she is overcoming and helping others to do the same. So Elizabeth, thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.
It's great
Absolutely.
to be here.
So tell us a little bit about your story. I know a little bit about it, but tell the audience, those who don't know, kind of about your story.
So a lot of people don't even know what multiple sclerosis is, and it's a neurological autoimmune disease. And a lot of times when people think MS, they think of maybe a friend or a relative that they know who's in a wheelchair. A lot of people do wind up in wheelchairs. And I got diagnosed back in 2007. And just have so many flare-ups over the years. Flare-ups meaning like all of a sudden your immune system starts overreacting, and you start like losing feeling in different parts of your body. You'll usually get hit and you'll start to see patterns with people, but a lot of mine have been like in my hands and my legs. And so my legs have been hit really hard, especially my right side. And so when I got diagnosed, I remember being like feeling like it was the end of the world. And that was like, I just imagine my life in a wheelchair. I imagine, myself not being able to walk very much longer. And I went on to have my first child. And then I was told not to have any more kids because and having another child can actually cause you to have another flare up. And I did. I went and had my second child. I didn't listen to the doctors, and I did have another flare up. And so just year after year after year, it's been 17 years now, I've been battling this. But I've had some really tough days where I was telling Mark before we started how I've had times where my legs have been paralyzed and my right arm and my hand has been paralyzed, and I lost use in my left eye. And so losing those things and losing the ability to be able to walk and to use your hand and to not be able to see very well really changed the way that you look at life, especially when you don't know if you're going to get those things back.
Right.
And so I'm very, very fortunate that I've been able to get and be able to retain the ability to walk. But a big part of my story is back in 2017, I had another brain MRI of just having so many flare-ups. And 2 different neurologists told me after looking at my brain MRI that I shouldn't be able to walk and I wouldn't be able to very much longer. So kind of get my affairs in order moment. And I went home and I cried for a few days. And then it's like a light bulb came on in me. And I just was like, what if this is my moment to overcome and not my moment just to surrender to this and go buy a wheelchair? And so it took a lot of courage, but I just was like so determined to try to figure out a way that I could still be able to walk. And so I had this crazy idea to get my real estate license. And my neurologist at the time told me to probably not even try because I wouldn't be able to pass the test, that neurologically I didn't have what it took. And it took me 3 times to pass it. But I got it. I passed my exam and I got my real estate license, and the rest is kind of history.
Wow.
So it's been a wild twist to my story because I had this idea in my head that by 35 years old, I would be in a wheelchair. And to put those kind of thoughts and ideas in your mind, you start to believe it and you start to buy into it. And I am a big believer now that what you believe, you will literally cause to happen. So if you believe you're going to be in a wheelchair, chances are you probably will be in a wheelchair. But if you believe you're going to overcome, then you'll find out a way to overcome.
Wow. So as you sit here today, what's your health like today? Like, you mentioned some of those things, like your left eye.
It took me about 5 years to get my depth perception back in my left eye, but it's back now, thank God. I was able to, through physical therapy, recover most of the use of my right hand. Thank God I'm left-handed.
Okay.
But I couldn't even like put my
Thank you, God.
fingers together. I know, amen. I know all the little details. I couldn't even like connect my fingers for a long time, but I was able to get the use of that back. And I think the thing I battle with the most is just the use of my legs. So even like right now, as I'm sitting here, like I have numbness and tingling, and I have to watch every day, like, you know, how I'm eating, make sure I'm moving my legs and things like that. So it's a journey that is ongoing. But I started a podcast called Miracles in the Middle. And the reason I named it that is because I feel like I'm in the middle places right now. I haven't gotten a miracle. You know, a lot of people want that miracle and they want that like big story of overcoming. But sometimes the beauty isn't just in the day to day learning to overcome the challenges that you're still facing every day.
Right, right. So, I mean, it's so amazing that, you know, you go to the doctor, you hear these stories of doctors saying these things and then people overcoming.
Yeah.
I mean, what was that like for you? Because, I mean, was it something where you said, I'm going to go do this research, you know, and find out myself? And what sort of modalities did you use to sort of come, you know, make your way out through this
I had
worse than
been, yeah,
better
I'd
off
been
than you were?
right. I'd been battling about 10 years at that point, and my
And you knew
kids.
what it was already at that point?
Yes.
Yeah.
Are you talking about back in 2017 when they
Yeah.
told me I'd be in a
Yeah.
wheelchair? Yeah, I knew what it was. I was very familiar. I'd been battling hardcore for 10 years, but MS, and probably a lot of diseases, but MS specifically is a disease you have to stay ahead of, because once you get scarring on your brain, it's hard to get that back
Oh,
and to
okay.
heal the scarring. So that's what was happening is I was accumulating so many scars on my brain. And that's what the doctors saw when they looked at my MRI, is they saw all the scarring that had been happening. And they're like, you can't walk when you have that many scars on your brain.
Yeah.
And it's blocking all that neurological stuff going on. The pathways are blocked. They can't read each other very well. And so honestly, it was a moment of desperation for me back in 2017. I just was probably the most terrified. It's probably it's like when someone receives a cancer diagnosis, your whole life flashes in front of your eyes. You know, I had 2 kids, I'm married, I have a wonderful husband. And in that moment, I just was like, I freaked out. And I'm just like, I just, in my head, I was like, if I'm going to have the chance to overcome this, like I need to start now, and I should start with what I have and just see how long I can walk. And I'm going to work as long as I'm able to walk, but I didn't think it would be very much longer.
Wow.
But I really wanted to try my hand at a career. I've been battling this since I had my kids. And I've never had a career in my whole life. This is my first career I've ever tried.
Wow.
I was a stay-at-home mom before this and sick in bed. So this is the first thing I've ever done.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So it was almost like you said, hey, if this is what's happening, I may as well do something that I want to do.
I kind of felt like, what do I have to lose?
Want to try something,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I felt like in that moment, I literally had nothing to lose and everything to gain, because I already felt like I was at the bottom. And I didn't have a lot of confidence in myself. I felt like nobody had confidence in me. So I was scared to death. So I actually, while I was studying for my real estate license, I got a job at a coffee shop in Spring Hill where I lived at the time. And because I just felt like I'm like a stay-at-home mom, and I've been battling sickness since I was 24 years old. Like I really don't have much I didn't feel like to offer the world. And so I've realized through my story that the truth is we all have a lot to offer the world. And it's a lie to believe that we don't. And it's a lie to believe that our stories are small, because we all have something. I've realized that we are overcoming. And the more I share my story, the more I hear others' stories of places they're overcoming. And it's like a common bond. Like we all have something that we're fighting and battling. And if we can all like do it together, like it just feels like camaraderie,
Sure.
you know, and like we're not alone in our stories.
Oh, I
So it's
love
been
that.
really powerful.
I love that. And I mean, you have your own podcast,
I do,
right? And
yeah.
tell everyone what it is.
Yeah, so it's called Miracles in the Middle. And admittedly, I've been a little slow in the last few months. I haven't been feeling the greatest and dealing with a lot of just personal stuff. And so I've taken a little bit of a break, but I am hearing stories of people who are, in my mind, battling even tougher things than I have battled. You know, I have a guy who's a quadriplegic that I had on the show, and his whole world was turned upside down by a bike accident a couple years ago. I have guys who are deaf. So I had to have accommodations on my podcast for them to tell their story. So my goal is to hear other stories of places that are overcoming, and the world doesn't even know.
Right.
So getting their stories out there has been really exciting for me.
What a great platform for them. That's amazing. So, you know, it's one thing to be an agent. There's
Yeah.
literally tens of thousands of them, but
Yeah.
this is not just anything. You became a really successful one. So talk about your come up.
Yeah.
How did you know in 17 and
Yeah.
from then to today? Talk about a little bit about your come up.
My journey has been wild, honestly, because I've never really had a moment of success like this in my life until now. And so it just feels like it's something I never dreamed would happen. Again, I was a stay at home mom battling an illness. Like I never dreamed I'd have a successful career like
Mhm.
this. Only God knew the cards that were in my future. I had no idea. And so it has been such, I've had to really adjust the way that I think about life and think about my
Mhm.
story. And I really feel like I've been successful in real estate, not even because of what a good agent I am, because I am a good agent, because I've sold over 200 homes now. I've been very successful very quickly. But again, it's that commonality of others feeling like I understand them because I'm battling my own thing and I
Mhm.
can help them battle their journey, whether it be to buy a house
Right.
or sell a house. Like people want to get you into their story when they hear your story.
Right.
So it's been a really powerful way to connect with people. And I just have felt like my a lot of my success has just been being authentic.
Yeah.
Because in real estate, you've probably seen it, nobody's authentic.
Mm.
Everybody wants to be the best. And I've just realized I can't be the best. I'm battling an illness. Like,
Right.
so I've just decided to show up where I'm at. And I think if I was to give any advice to any agent out there is to show up with who you are, be
Right.
who you are. Don't try to be
Mhm.
somebody else. Don't try to be the next best person. Be who your spirit needs you to be. And that is going to be a really powerful way to sell. And people will literally be drawn to you. I don't market myself. People come to me. I don't even have the energy sometimes to go out and like scout out, all the 8 touches, the touch
Mhm.
points they say to do with people. I don't really have the time or energy for that.
Yeah.
But what I do is stay true to my story and be authentic. And I find that people are drawn to that.
Right. I mean, do you guys hear that? I mean, authenticity. What is just an amazing word that I mean, someone's whole life and
Hmm.
career can just be based on showing up and being authentic.
Yeah.
Pretty much
It's
what you're.
incredible.
Yeah.
It's easier than we would think. I think what isn't easy though is the pressure we put on ourselves.
Mm.
And I feel it too as a real estate agent. You feel like, oh my gosh, everybody out there is doing these like amazing reels and this and that and the other. But I just remind myself often when I feel overwhelmed by all of that, like, no, just be true to your story. And the more true we are to our story, I believe the more
Mm.
successful we are because people feel when we're being genuine with them and we're not treating them like the next paycheck that we're trying to get. We're
Right.
treating them like a person.
Right. Man, you are inspiring. That's amazing. I love that. I mean, it is so hard, I think, for some of us to not get caught up in just chasing,
Yeah.
the rainbow or
Yeah.
whatever it is you want to call it, and just kind of lose yourself. I
Yeah.
mean, and
I feel it
especially in
too.
in any career where
Yeah.
sort of there's no limit to the income. So we're
Mhm.
like, okay, you
Yeah.
reach this level, then you go to the next level
Yeah.
instead of being thankful and grateful. Talk about that. I'm
Mhm.
sure
Yeah.
gratitude
Oh,
is a
yeah.
big part of your life. Talk about that because, people have gratitude journals,
Yeah.
gratitude, practicing gratitude. Talk about that.
I'm glad that you mentioned gratitude because back in 2016, that is actually something that changed in my journey is I don't think I really had a thankful heart before that. I was struggling a lot. I was struggling with my story. And I remember having a sign in my house back in 2016 that said, there is always, always, always something to be thankful for.
Mm,
And I started practicing the act of gratitude. And it literally has changed my life because you can't be positive and negative at the same time.
mm,
We literally have a choice every day. Are we going to think positive thoughts? Or are we going to think negative thoughts? And I believe that's one reason I've been able to turn my health around is just choosing to be positive and to be thankful for what I have in this moment. And again, people are attracted to who we are,
mhm,
right? So if we are a positive force around them, when we're encouraging them and inspiring them, like people want to be around you. And so I think just that act of finding gratitude and having a thankful heart for what I
mhm,
have, because the truth is, my health is a lot worse than a lot of people out there. There are a lot of real estate agents that can
mm,
run circles around me, but what they don't have is um, the PowerPoint that I have in my story, and that's what you have in your story too.
Right.
Everybody listening, like we each have the power in our story and nobody can take that from you. So learning to be confident and just be thankful for the season that you're in, even if it's
Mhm.
difficult, has really changed the way that I look at life and has changed the way that the things that I chase, like it,
Yeah.
I don't chase maybe the things that other people chase, but I just have learned to like settle in and be content with what I have in this moment.
Right.
And it's brought more.
I think it's so important because there are so many right now that are struggling, whether
Yeah.
it be, in this industry, in the real estate industry, or not,
Mhm.
whether just in some other field. But I think it's so important just to have someone like you share your story and
Yeah.
say, "Look, this is what I was doing and where I was at, and
Mhm.
this is what I've done to kind of come up." Because I mean, you could have, like you're saying, your mindset could have been such that, hey, I'm destined to be in a wheelchair, and who
Yeah.
knows, maybe you would have been.
Yeah.
So like shifting a little bit to the market, like the
Mhm.
market has its ups and downs.
Yeah.
How do you stay resilient now? Maintain peace of mind, during slower periods or
Yeah.
market downturns. I mean, January, historically, December, January, February can be slower times. And then last year was kind of nutty.
Yeah.
Still
To
closings,
say the least.
closings happen every single day,
Yeah, they
but at
do.
the same time, it's people are shifting gears. And so
Yeah. Yeah.
how are you navigating?
I think having a resilient mindset is more important than ever right now.
Mm.
And I believe that's what carried me through last year. I didn't realize, do you follow Ricky Caruth?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
the other day he
I
said
stole that
last
line from
year
him. How
was
about
the
that?
worst market in 30 years.
Yeah. And if you
I
made it through this,
screenshot that.
right.
Yeah. He said, if you made it through this year,
You can make
then
it through anything.
yeah, and I was like, I had no idea. I still sold 30 houses last year. I had no idea. It was such a rough market. But the thing that I stayed true to last year was telling my story and being true to myself. And I
Mhm.
know I keep going back to that, but if you can get that and just be authentic and really reach your sphere of influence with who you are, who you really are at your core, it is a powerful force. And it doesn't matter what the market looks like. You will always be telling your story because, like you said, there's
Mhm.
always people that want to buy and sell, and you want them to be drawn to you, but people aren't drawn to fake, right?
Right.
They're drawn to people who are genuine. And so I just had so much success still last year because there was still people that know my story. And I feel like now when they think of buying and selling their house, they're like, who's that real estate agent that's
Mhm.
battling MS and overcoming? So if you can find your niche and what you're dealing with and like where you're overcoming and just be true to it. It doesn't have to be a big story like mine or whatever, but just being true to yourself, like you will
Right.
always have success no matter what market you're in.
Right. And I think that's really cool what you said because I mean, not everyone has a major,
Mm-mm.
debilitating
No, you wouldn't
condition.
want it.
And
It's
so,
not fun.
but their story is still important.
Yeah,
And
that's
like you
right.
said earlier, in
Yeah.
the beginning, that everyone has something to share to
Mhm.
the world, something to offer.
Yeah, that's
And so I
right.
think it's so easy to get down to where you think that, I don't have anything to offer. I don't have
Yeah.
what's out there needed in the marketplace, or people are in between jobs. Maybe they got laid off. I mean, I know people
Yeah.
that got laid off from banks
Yes.
this year,
Yeah.
multiple friends. And so I've never been laid off from a job. And so it's like,
Yeah.
who, like, that's a scary thing.
Right.
So, I feel for these people. So,
Right.
it's very important, guys, to think about what it is
Mhm.
that you're about,
Mhm.
what is your story and actually getting that out.
Yeah.
So, it's, how are you using some of these? It's a competitive market, Nashville, and so there is competition.
Yeah, there
So
is.
how do you sort of help people stay on top, ensure that your clients come out on top? What kind of strategies do you use?
It depends on the situation. I've been very successful with being a really excellent negotiator, but that doesn't come overnight. That takes skill, and I
Mhm.
mentioned earlier I've sold 200 homes in 5 years, and because of that, I've begun to acquire some skills based on that. I would say if you don't know how to do that yet, I would find a mentor. Someone I know I'm mentoring myself, several people. I do think it's important to mentor people.
Mm.
When you've been given a gift, it's important to share it with others, right? And so I'm mentoring people. And I would say if you don't know how to kind of acquire those skills and negotiate well yet, find a mentor who can help you. There are good people in this
Mhm.
industry. So I would say for my own skills, like, there's just so many. I enjoy it. I enjoy being a negotiator for people. I believe it's because I've negotiated for my health and advocated for my own health for so many years now. I enjoy transferring those skills to helping others now get what they need in a successful manner. So I have a lot of strategies. It depends on the situation, but I enjoy, being in those. This hasn't happened back since 2021, but being in a 30 offer situation is still getting my client to the top. That takes skill, and you have to know what you're doing. And, I've been burned a lot, just like anybody else. It hasn't been all rainbows and sunshine for me.
Right.
My husband's seen me cry my eyes out. I suffer loss like everyone else in the industry. And, but it makes you a better agent when you go through those tough places. If it was all wins, we would be like just empty. We wouldn't have the depth that we have as agents.
Now, were you mentored, or was it trial by fire for you?
Well, I was mentored a little bit in the very beginning, but a lot of it, I was mentored for about 4 months. A lot of it was trial by fire, though. What happened was the guy that brought me on was buying Zillow leads. And so I started answering Zillow calls, and I don't know if there was a more terrified soul than me answering those calls, because like anyone else at that point, I didn't believe I had what it took at all. And I just was shaking when I would answer the phone. But after a few months, became like the #1 agent in Spring Hill because I picked up the calls so fast. And I just had to teach myself as I went how to answer questions and be confident. I think it's a big part of actually being a good real estate agent, is just the mindset, like what you're talking about, and being confident in what we bring to the table.
Sure.
Because people buy into our confidence.
Sure. What about the clients? Like, it's a stressful time, anxiety, stress for the whole buying a home process or selling a home. How do you help clients sort of manage that, during the process?
I think a lot of it is setting expectations up front of what the process is going to look like. So just preparation, so they know what they're walking into, and just holding their hand. I think it's important for us as real estate agents just to make sure to remember they don't buy homes every few months like we buy and sell with people. They do this maybe once a quarter, once a quarter of like a century.
Right.
Some people, or every decade or something like that. I was just talking to my husband about that this morning. I'm helping a couple that purchased maybe 10 years ago, and they're kind of like first-time home buyers. But I was like, they don't do this every day like we do. So just remembering to really hold their hand and be thorough in the way that we are describing the process to them and leading and guiding them, and just continually providing the assurance that we know what's going on. We know exactly how this is going to turn out, because there's only so many ways it can turn out. Either you lose the contract or you close, and that you kind of know the in-betweens, and they don't need to worry about anything. They have you holding their hand.
Right.
It's important to be confident, I think, with our agents or with our clients.
Oh, I totally agree. I mean, and it makes you think about, what they're going through, and what a home actually means to people.
Yes.
So how do you weave that into, what a actual home environment and how it contributes to someone's overall peace of mind and mental health, well-being?
Yeah, I think it's important to step into their journey and their story. And so they just feel like you are a friend of the family and you're part of the process. And I will it's hilarious. And I tell my clients this a lot, but I will literally walk into a home with them, and I can feel it when they feel it, that it's going to be the home that they choose. I just have like this sixth sense about me. And so I think just really integrating yourself into their story and their journey to the point where they feel so cared about and so heard and understood. And you are just like imagining with them, like what it's going to look like in their new home, and like how it's going to be so good for their family in the next season of life. Just really like being involved in their story. People they feel who we are, and they feel when we care about them and that we are involved in their stories. So I think just, picturing and imagining with them their next home and everything just really helps them feel like you're part of the process.
Yeah. What sort of struggles do you think people are having right now? I mean, obviously interest rates have been a big topic the last 18 months, 24 months. What's the biggest struggle, and how are you helping people navigate that?
I think people have a lot of PTSD for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty bad out there. I sold a lot of homes in the last 3 years, and I was hustling like anyone else. And I can hear it in buyers and sellers' voices even to this day. I think there's a lot of expectations that we are having to reset right now, because sellers think they're going to get a certain amount, but honestly, the market's changed. So we have to be able to articulate to them how the market has changed and to help them come to an understanding, so we're not wasting our time or their time.
Right.
And then for buyers, sometimes they don't understand, like they're scared that they're going to have to give up $20,000 above appraisal, for example, or they've heard the horror stories from the last few years about so-and-so was in a 15 offer situation and they're terrified to try again. So I think a challenge, honestly, is getting people off the sidelines right now, whether it be buyers or sellers. You're probably seeing it too. I have a lot of people in my pipeline right now. A lot of them aren't moving, but they're starting to as the rates change a little bit.
Right. So do you have like a favorite story you like to tell about a buyer or seller through the years?
I have so many good stories.
200 homes, and then some of them maybe didn't close. So you probably have a bunch, but what's one of your favorite ones?
The first one that comes to mind, I have so many stories, but just a quick one I could share is I have a couple I remember a couple of years ago that was in a $250,000 budget range, and that doesn't buy you very much. And we were looking in the Murfreesboro area, and it was back in the thick of, I think, 2021. And I remember us going into a 10 offer situation. And this was before NAR was discouraging love letters. But I encouraged them for a certain house that they had selected, because we looked at so many houses that were in the 250 range. And I was like, what if we look a little bit higher, like at 275, and just see what we can do, right? And so we looked at this dollar amount, 275. They found a house. They really liked it. But we were like, first day on the market, there's no way they're going to get this house. So it turns into a 10 offer situation. But in the middle of that, I said, you should write a letter to the seller and just share your heart. And I get a call, a few hours later from the agent after they review all the offers. And my clients, now that I think about it, I think they offer like maybe 10,000 less than maybe some of the other better offers. But my client's offer got accepted. And I remember the seller agent saying to me that her seller was sitting at the table crying over their letter that they had sent them because it meant so much to them. And it reminded me in that moment, like, again, I know I keep going back to this, but our stories are powerful. When we share our hearts, it's really powerful. And they said things that spoke to the seller. And she literally accepted an offer that was 10,000 less than maybe their best offer that was on the table. And there was like a heart connection with them. So I think that is a huge part again of us.
That's a great story.
What we do as agents, like sharing the heart connection can really like help you win the offer. So we got it in a 10 offer situation.
So that's amazing. So like, what do you see coming up as we move through this first quarter of 2024?
I think it's going to be exciting. I'm preparing myself. I'm not the busiest I've been right now. I don't think anybody is, but people are really starting to come off the sidelines. And I think being that it's an election year and everything, I think a lot's going to happen probably in the first 3 quarters and then potentially slow down in the 4th quarter potentially with, the election happening right then. But I think people are starting to be encouraged that the rates are changing, and we just need more people to sell their homes so we have more inventory to choose from.
Right.
So I do think we're going to be busy.
Builders are having a hard time keeping up, for sure.
They are, for sure. Yeah.
Well, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for coming. What a great story. And guys, check her out. How can people reach you, Elizabeth?
I am all over social media. On Instagram, I'm under the Elizabeth Taylor is my name on there. I'm on Facebook. I have even a bigger following on Facebook, where I just like to share inspirational thoughts a lot. And then I have my podcast, Miracles in the Middle. If you want to check that out, I'd be honored to have you listen and hear the courageous stories that I share.
Check her out, guys. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and we'll see you next time.